Poetry doesn't pay the bills for most poets. It's a labor of love. For Brian Wood, that means in addition to his third collection of poetry, he's also got a fascinating day job. The new book is called Zen in Beverly Hills, and he joins us now on that and his other talents. It's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I really enjoyed the book. It's a small but mighty book. By day, you're a literary agent representing nonfiction sports writers. By night, or maybe on the weekend, I don't know, you're a poet. How do you balance the difference between those two worlds?
To be honest, the poetry is kind of an escape. Not that my job is, I'm not a brain surgeon or anything like that. I realize people have difficult jobs, but being an agent can be difficult sometimes. And the poetry is just kind of an escape to things I want to work on. And it's a way to articulate some things I otherwise wouldn't be able to articulate.
Well, I was going to ask you that because, working in sports, I'm a big basketball fan, and there are some plays, it's like, ooh, that is poetry in motion, right? But poetry, I think, digs deeper. What is it about poetry that allows you to express yourself?
I think it's a way of saying things you couldn't say any other way. Movie makers like Scorsese or Orson Welles, or great music makers like Mozart or Bach, they have their own art form. I think poetry at its best says things concisely that would be impossible to tell in a play or a book or a novel, however well written. When a poem does its job well, it says things you've thought but never seen put that way.
If you were to pick something, a time in your life where you were having challenges, and poetry allowed you to get at the heart of why you were feeling the way you were feeling, what moment would you say that was?
I know this will sound weird, but it kind of hit me when we were discussing a bit before we came on camera, the one about our dog dying. That would be a good indication of that. When a dog dies, it hits you in ways it's hard to conceive of. And working on that poem helped me deal with what I was dealing with. It didn't cure it by any means, but lamenting her loss in a poem helped me deal with the fact that she was no longer here.
By the way, a great poem, and my condolences.
Thank you.
Would you literally, because I think a lot of times when people think you're an agent, how many agents actually write their own books? Is that something that occurs a lot?
I don't think so, no. They mainly keep to themselves. I do know a couple years ago, a couple editors at HarperCollins wrote a book called Thinking Like Your Editor, to help authors try to break into the business. By coincidence, they're both agents themselves now. So whether they'll follow up or not and do Thinking Like Your Agent is another question. But as far as I know, being an agent cures most people. For being an agent, I think, takes away the mystery of the industry. So I don't think
What do you mean by that?
Oh, sure. Well, you would know. You've been in television a long time. When you're a kid, television is wonderful and perfect and great, and you love every show and you can't wait. And then you go into the industry and realize it's a long climb up, and sometimes you have to climb down. And every industry has its secrets. And the book, I'm sure when you were a kid, you loved to read, and I did too, and you just devoured them. And now you find out that the blurbs in the back aren't necessarily blurbs.
Yeah, there's a bigger
Sometimes
story.
They're manufactured. And in nonfiction, the book is often written by somebody else. And I'm sure that happens in fiction.
Ghostwriters, right?
Oh, yes. And I'm sure that happens in fiction, too. But that side I'm blissfully unaware of.
That's happened before when I've read a book and I thought it was the writer and then find out that they didn't write it. And it felt kind of like you were duped in a way.
I shouldn't tell the story.
I know you're telling all the industry secrets.
You can always take it out later. But a lot of the top editors I deal with are very good at their jobs. And there's a joke sometimes that to start the conversation, I'll say, so what book are you rewriting from scratch today?
Oh, no.
And instead of laughing, there's this awkward, thanks, Brian. And then they either answer me or they go on with what they want to talk about. But a nonfiction, a lot of the books sometimes have been written from scratch by someone else.
You know that emoji? There's an emoji that has a smile but a tear down their face because I'm just like, oh gosh, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to break into the industry and put their blood, sweat, and tears, and then they don't, but then behind the scenes. Maybe you'll write a book about that. Oh,
I'd probably killed, but sure.
Well, your first book, Winter Walk, was published in 2013. What motivated you to begin writing poetry?
I had been doing them for a while. I didn't really write anything decent until I was in my mid-30s. Until then, I was just parodying much better poets and showing them to my friends. As I got older and a little more mature, they started getting a little better, and friends started to encourage me to publish. And with my girlfriend's help, it took me a while, but I submitted to a few smaller presses. And eventually, Sakura Press in Pennsylvania gave me a shot.
It's interesting what you just said, that in your 20s, you were copying other people, but in your 30s, you felt, I guess, confident enough to use your own voice. Do you think it was just about maturity?
I had to grow up a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
the earlier poems were, hey, look how clever this is. And hopefully they were, or at least my friends pretended they were.
Yeah.
After a while, I started writing about other people. And that's, I think, when they got better. And as with anything, the more I did it, the more confident I got and more relaxed. And you're not trying to show off, you're just trying to, hopefully people enjoy the poems on whatever level they want to.
It makes me think of that saying for great writers, show, don't tell.
Yes, those are 3 words should be up in every writing school in the world.
Because once you experience something, you don't have to like say a diagram, this is what. There's something about poetry, because there are moments when I feel kind of ashamed that when I was in school, I didn't learn about Shakespeare.
You are not alone.
Lord Byron or Dante or anything like that. And it still feels like Shakespeare, it still kind of feels like poetry is inaccessible. So how do we make it more accessible to everyone?
That's a good question. I hear that a lot, that like I don't like poetry, I hid it in school. I did too. I didn't really enjoy poetry until I left school. We teach it as a formulaic, boring, pedantic exercise when it's anything but. Shakespeare and the Bible are unfilmable, X-rated stuff you couldn't get on TV or the movies now, and yet we teach them as boring, staid subjects. We do the same to Plato. He might be the most interesting writer who ever lived, and yet now he's a boring textbook writer that you're forced to read in first year or whatever. We're going to have to find ways to get teachers to bring this to students as part of their lives. It's fascinating stuff if it's taught properly.
I think there is something to be said about maintaining tradition. Your poems demonstrate a reverence for a traditional form of poetry. Is that intentional? Oh,
yes, very much. I hope, if I'm doing my job really well, I hope to remind people of, say, Robert Frost or Auden. If they read the King James Bible, I hope that reminds them of that too. I have a real reverence for people who got it right, and hopefully I do too sometimes.
I do find that now on social media, people express themselves through poetry that might not be seen as traditional. Like on Instagram, there's a young woman called Alex L, and I think she's terrific. And I think back before social media, I don't think she'll be able to express herself through the poems. So is there a way for us to draw from the past and maybe relay that poetry in the present?
Oh, sure. Every good poet makes the world in his or her own image, I think. Every great writer started out as a heresy, and then they make the world into what they want it to. We think of say T.S. Eliot as boring and something you had to read in school, but at the time he was considered really out there, a modernist, untouchable. The same as Philip Larkin and a bunch of other poets. So the poets today who are using social media to get their work out there are doing exactly what they're supposed to. Get your work out there so readers can appreciate it and deal with it. The poet always has to have contact with the reader and vice versa. You can cut this out too. As soon as government subsidies come in and publishers are publishing the stuff regardless of whether the public is interested or not, that connection is cut. The poet who wants to be read will always want to interact with the public.
And we're not cutting that out because that was great. Let's talk about style, because there is style in poetry. What would you say, what stylistic and thematic choices have you made to align your work with classical poetry?
I do my best, and when I fail, it's a lack of talent, not of effort. I do my best to remind people of poets I love, like Philip Larkin, who I just mentioned, Yeats, Auden, Dante, Shakespeare. Obviously, I don't get to anywhere near their level, but I try to remind people of the poets that I read on my own. I find their stuff inexpressibly good, and that's the standard I aim for.
How does your work differ from the postmodernist and experimental poetry that we do see a lot today?
Again, you'll probably be cutting this out later, but with some rare exceptions.
We're not cutting anything out, Brian, okay?
Starting in the 20th century, some very gifted writers came along, like E.E. Cummings and James Joyce and Virginia Woolf, we could both go on, who in their brilliant way started breaking down the rules. And they could get away with it because of their enormous talent. But the poet who comes along today and every line starts with I, and it's all in the lowercase, and it's about their trip to Starbucks that morning and how the barista was rude, and that's the end, and it doesn't rhyme, it doesn't scan. They're really talking to themselves. And it's like the modernist composer who will only write in a certain key in a dark room with no one listening. I think modernism went too far and divorced itself from the general public. And like I say, a Joyce or a Stravinsky could get away with that sometimes, but if people want to be read, I think their stuff should rhyme or scan, because popular poetry sells enormously. Just ask Drake or Kanye West, any pop band you know, all their stuff rhymes and scans, all of it.
You're right. I know it, but I didn't know it until you said it. In your book, you write about different things. You mentioned barista. There's actually a poem about barista. And the theme of religion is woven through a few of the poems in your collection. For example, the poem Hollywood and Highland features a street preacher. What were you trying to say there?
Hopefully, what I was trying to get across there is how odd it was that on that street that day, everyone was relieved that he wasn't panhandling, and he wasn't trying to coerce you into, giving up money or having to. They like I said in the poem, they treated him like he was speaking Klingon, like he was speaking a bygone language from a bygone day, and it's weird to me that a religion that took hold of a lot of Europe and much of the Americas and that has millions of adherents today. In Los Angeles that day, he was a crazy weirdo. And there are crazy weirdos at Young and Dundas right now, as your producer was reminding me a couple days ago. It's weird how a religion can take hold of many people, but as time goes by, it just becomes another way of another ideology, and people move on.
I'm thinking back on some of the topics that you wrote in the book. There's a poem where you talk about a Hollywood actress, because I think we still live in a world very much where we place people, if you do this job, you're up here. But then it turns out that person is not the nicest person, right? And then again, you had one about this street preacher. What were you trying to say in those poems by just using, I guess, I wouldn't say the Hollywood person is just an everyday person, but in California, they probably are.
Oh, yeah. If you want to run into stars, hang around Beverly Hills for a while. That actually happened to an old boss of mine. She was at a Beverly Hills cafe, and am I allowed to name the movie star, or does that spoil the segment?
Oh, I do tell. We might have to cut that part out, but do tell.
Shirley MacLaine came roaring in just as I describe it, used every F-bomb in the planet to get her lunch, and was just awful to everyone. And she's as bad as I describe it there. And my boss said, Brian, this is a brilliant poem, well done, but you completely missed the point. Like, okay.
What point did you miss?
She said, Brian, you don't understand. The staff there mostly found her charming. And I said, translation, they found her charming because she was rich and famous. And I'm probably avoiding your question, but all I was trying to get across
Well, what
there
do you think that says about us as a society?
we worship these people beyond all reason. We're all like that. I'm guilty as charged. When I was a kid, I thought Guy Lafleur walked on water. We all worship celebrities far out of proportion to their merits. It's just part of how we're wired. And that poem, I think I was just trying to show what happens to these people. They've been praised for so long. They've been called every good thing. They're told they're the best. And once they stop getting the roles and once the fame starts, they're out of love for themselves or anything else. I've seen that a few times. There's another poem about, I'm allowed to,
say the names, we'll decide later.
My wife and I had the pleasure of meeting Linda Blair once, and you can tell she's out of cash, out of money, out of ideas, and she used to be the biggest star in the world. I think, who was that guy on Parks and Rec who's been famous? Rob Lowe. He said fame is the one drug you can't recover from.
Because you want more and more of it.
They don't ever recover, I don't think. I have known, it's something people can't help replace in their lives.
If you could say in one line, we have about a minute left, but if someone's watching this and they're still not convinced trying poetry, they feel as if it's something that's closed off to them and they can't find anything about life in it, what would you say?
I think just to give another try, poetry, like I said, has been neglected for many reasons over the years. It's modernism and the way it's taught in schools, but great poets have a way of reaching down either through the centuries or from 2 minutes ago. If their message is relevant to you, you'll find it. They can say things you won't find in any other art form.
And we truly are just trying to get a better understanding of the world and our place in it. And I really enjoyed it. Congratulations. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
The Agenda in the Summer with Nam Kiwanuka is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.